you gotta suffer. It's tough. You're gonna suffer. You're gonna have emotional things, gonna be physical things. You're gonna get tired. You're gonna get problems. I don't know, your son getting sick, whatever. Your wife. Sometimes the real problems you still gotta go through.
Gilbert and Claudia are both Brazilian badasses that multi-time, how many are you, 7-time national champion in Brazil in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, 7 times.
Only 7?
Only 7.
Why not 8?
Because I went to MMA and, I had to stop competing in jiu-jitsu.
So, were you, I know you had some other jiu-jitsu tournaments too, so forgive me for not knowing all of them. That I don't know all the niche tournaments, but I know you won many of the significant tournaments. 7-time national champion. Were you world champion as well?
Yes, 3 times.
I thought so, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't confusing it because he's also a 3-time world champion, 3-time world champion, and you won some of the national championships down there as well, and in the toughest country in the world to win. So both migrated over to UFC over time. I'll let them tell their own stories, but both of them have been top contenders, fought for the title, fought some of the toughest people. Gilbert's right there right now for fight of the year. I say you and Glover is, if it's not you, it's Glover. If it's not Glover, it's you. That are the best fights of the year right now. And maybe to share a bit of the background of how does that start for you, Gilbert? What if how did that everything was easy, right?
I wish. I mean, I to be honest, I don't wish. If I could change, I don't think, to be the place where I'm at today, I think I had to go through all this. So as long as I remember, my name is Gilbert Burns. I grew up in Brazil. I have two brothers, older and younger brother. Younger brothers in the UFC. My older brother today is a Navy SEAL in Brazil. Came from a very humble beginning. I don't even like to say it because I accept that already, It's nothing new for me. I was there and it is what it is. But it was a very humble beginning. I never starved. Thank God. It was tough, but not that bad, It was bad, but my dad was always working. He always worked at home. And he tried multiple different jobs, like car wash, like fixing the mechanic, fixing the cars on the inside. We started doing karate. Me and my brothers, we had a lot of energy fighting each other all the time. Now I know that I was training, but back then didn't know, but we used to fight so much. And then the first sport that we got to was karate. We had a big backyard in the house, and we ran to a guy that was teaching karate. And then I was forced to do it. I had to do it. And we compete for a couple of years. I think I was 5 years old when I started doing karate. And I did for like 3 or 4 years with a lot of competition. I think I won even a couple titles, but I don't really remember. I don't have a lot of medals. It just happened. But then at 12, my dad, like I said, he always changing a lot of jobs. And then at that time, I was 12 years old, and then one of the guy that came to the mechanic was a jiu-jitsu coach. His gi was inside of the car, and then we kind of saw the gi, started playing around with the gi, me and my brothers, and then my dad found out he was a jiu-jitsu coach, and then in exchange for that service that my dad made it to him, so he just offered to us to start training. A scholarship, like 3 months, to start training. That's how I met jiu-jitsu. So, and the first, I think the first important lesson that I learned was my first day back from the jiu-jitsu class. Because for me, it was a thing that my dad did. At the time, I didn't understand, but he didn't get paid for that service. For me, my brother started training. And then first day there, I didn't have a gi. They borrowed us a gi. We start training, and then I like it. I was just learning a couple strokes. I was fighting my brothers all the time. A kind of couple moves that we already were doing, but we didn't know. So he was teaching us. And my first day back to that practice was, I like to say, was my first important lesson that I ever learned. Like, when I got back home, my dad asked us, hey, how was the jiu-jitsu? And then we say, yeah, it was fun. We learned these, we did that. And then he said, okay, cool. I'm glad you guys like it because I don't have money to keep paying. And if you guys really like it, you guys gotta be very good at it because you guys only can train 3 months for free. After those 3 months, if you guys are not good, you guys done. If you guys are good, I'm gonna ask if they keep going with the scholarship. So now it's on you. Go there. If you really like it, make sure you go there and start training very hard and give your best every single session. If you're not, you know what's gonna happen in 3 months. And that, even though I was 12 years old, that message was so strong for me because I know one thing that I really like it, I could miss. And I don't know, we humans, we all have that. If you say you can't, then you want it, right? If you say, oh, you cannot do this, that's the thing that you wanted. If he said, oh, I might cannot do anymore, then I want it, I really want it. So, and then we started training pretty hard. 1 month we had one competition, me and my brothers did. I lost, my both brothers won. And then after 1 month, so the thing was in Brazil, the difference, it's like here we have a lot of cities, right? Here's one city, you walk a little bit, it's another city. So in Brazil, we call it different, but every month we have a tournament in one city, and on the other city, so it's every other month we have tournament, 6 tournaments on this city, 6 months on the other city. So, and then I start training, compete on my city, next month on the other city. So on those 3 months, I did 3 tournaments. I lost 2, but I won 1. And my both brothers, they won every single tournament. And after 3 months, we start training. They give us a scholarship, and then I never stopped training. But that was my beginning on the sport, you know. And then after that, I never stopped training. I was competing, like I said, in 1 month I started competing, and that was my beginning on the sport.
How'd that evolve from there to you start winning the major tournaments and then transition to UFC? How much money you make when you win a jiu-jitsu tournament in Brazil?
No money.
Even if you're the best in, what if you're a world champion in jiu-jitsu? What kind of money you make then?
You make no money in the tournament.
No money, and I remember 2011 I become a world champion in jiu-jitsu in the major tournament in 2011, and was in LA. I have a sponsorship that pay everything, and I was like very good at my division at the time, like number 1. But answering that question, making no money. I got back to the hotel, and then I remember I made the decision, like, my question was, okay, that was my dream, become a black belt jiu-jitsu world champion. I made it. And I was, that crazy thing we talked to Derek about, I was happy, but okay, I made it. What now? Like, that was that thing that was going to my mind. I was happy that I made it. Don't get it twisted. I was happy. But like, shit, I conquered, I made it. What now? And the answer was, I got 2 answers, 2 options. I'm gonna keep doing it and make no money, or I'm transitioning to MMA. And then I decided at that moment, to start doing MMA. And then there was another story. But you what was your first question you asked? How I transitioned that beginning on jiu-jitsu to win the major tournaments? So I kept training. I was 12. To be honest, I had a lot of fun. The training for me was nothing hard. I was just doing every day. I couldn't miss a class because it was for free. So I had to go to the class, and then gotta help out, like cleaning the mats before and after the class. And I remember when I turned 16, that was when I had my first click, my first thought that I went to jiu-jitsu world tournament in Rio, and I watched those black belts fighting, and then I really watched, and then I'm like, I think I can beat these guys. Like, not now, for sure. I'm not a black belt yet. It's gonna take me a couple of years, but I remember I was watching, and I'm like, if I train super hard, I think I can be a jiu-jitsu world champion. And that was the first kind of, I could close my eyes at that time and see myself become a world champion. Then I decided to train super hard. 16 years old, I think the words I become obsessed with jiu-jitsu, and I was competing every single tournament, becoming one of the best from my city, got a couple of sponsorships. Sponsorships back then is not, it's nothing like, it's not a sponsorship. They were just paying my tournaments. Back then was like 40 reais, 50 reais, that's like what, $10?
$5.
Yeah, $5, $10. They were paying my tournaments. And I had a guy that paid my tournament. I have another guy that paid my strength conditioning. Back then was like 65 reais. I didn't have the money, but I have like one guy that trained with us, that owns the company. Then I came to him and I asked, hey, you think you can help me out with this? Yeah, for sure. So I had a couple sponsors like that was helping me through my career and helping me with the even to compete in the tournament, you gotta do a registration. Now it's way expensive. Now it's $130. The biggest tournament back then was like 30, 40, 50, but I didn't have that money, so I have those sponsors paying for me. And at 16, I got more sponsors because I was competing more and doing better in the tournaments. 17, 18, that was my first year as adult, blue belt, and then I did very good, and then got purple belt, brown belt, and I was doing very good, and then become a black belt. And that was a crazy story. When I became a black belt, Claudia was there already. Claudia was there in Rio training. And so I have my gym that was in a small city in Niterói in Rio. It's like 20 minutes from the big city, from Rio. So Rio de Janeiro, if you don't know, is like in New York. We have the state, New York, and we have the city, New York. Same thing in Rio. We have the state, Rio de Janeiro, and we have the city, Rio. So I was outside of the city in Niterói, and then I was going to Rio to train to get the biggest trainer in Nova União. But at that year that I became a black belt, 2007, I don't know why, but everybody stopped doing gi jiu-jitsu and they started doing MMA. The year that I became a black belt, okay, now I can achieve my dream, become a black belt world champion. They all stopped with the gi training and started doing MMA. And I was just like, shit. And then I went to Rio a couple of times to train, like 1 hour with the bus, getting there. And then when I get there, the coach, Andrea Pederneiras, hey, can you run the class today? And then I came to train, and then I went, and then I gotta make a change, you know, it's not working anymore. And then I reached out to the guys in São Paulo. There's another city, like 5 hours driving or like 45 minutes flight. And then they had a very good training in São Paulo. And I decided to go to São Paulo. But back then I had a sponsor that was paying my college in Rio in 2007. He paid my international flight. And I have those little sponsors. One paid my supplements, the other one paid my registration. And when I decided to move to São Paulo, I lost all of those sponsors because they want me there. That was my comfort zone because they want me there to we sponsor Gilbert. He's the guy. So whenever I move, they say, oh, now in São Paulo, we cannot help you anymore. And that was very tough for me. Even my parents, to tell my parents, hey, I'm moving to São Paulo. I'm done with college. Like coming from a very humble beginning, I have a sponsor that was paying my college. I have all the other sponsors that I wasn't making money, but I was having everything was taken care of. Like I don't have no expense. So the comfort zone was very good, but I just felt that I need to make that change. And that change was tough with the family. That was the negotiation that was very, I know was wrong if I kept there because I didn't have the training that I needed. I had everything I needed, supplements, vitamins, registration, little sponsor here, there, but the training wasn't the best. And I knew I gotta make that change. And that was I knew it. And whenever I put a thing in my head that I need to change, I'm going to change at all costs. And I went to São Paulo. I remember when I moved to São Paulo and I tried to reach out to those sponsors, gone. And they're like, shit, now I gotta making money. I don't know how I'm gonna do. And that was a very tough year on me, end of 2007, beginning of 2000, and the whole 2018, that was a very tough year for me because I was not in my house anymore, nor my parents, nor with the sponsors. And that was a very hard beginning for me on my black belt career because now I gotta start from scratch. So now how am I gonna make money? So I asked those guys, how you think I can get a job or anything to do? And then I remember we were training 3 times a day. That was even wrong because that was too much, but I was young, no problem. So we trained Monday to Friday, 3 times a day. Hard training, high level guys. That was the training that I needed. But then I had no money. And then I started doing security Friday night, Saturday night, sometimes Sunday, just to make that little money. And then I remember we used to go to a place, I told you that story. We moved up to a studio, me and 3 more guys, so 4 guys total in a studio. I don't know how, but we made it happen. And we live in a studio, and that was so bad. Like, in Brazil, if a person get kidnapped, they gotta hire that person. I know it's not funny at all. It's just a little example. Like, but if they do kidnap people in Brazil or maybe here, maybe anywhere, they gotta hire that people, right? People cannot see. They gotta be on the place, hide on the place. And in Brazil, in Portuguese, we have a name for that place called cativeiro. Like, if I say it's like a prison, like cativeiro, like a very, very bad place. And that was the place where we live. Oh, where you guys staying? We're staying at the cativeiro. Very, bad.
The place where a hostage would be held.
Yeah. And the crazy thing when I think about it is was 180 reais a month to pay the rent from that place. Divided by 4 because we're 4 guys, so 45 reais each guy. And the crazy thing to remember is a couple months, maybe for sure, more than 5, 6 or 7 months, I didn't have 45 reais. How much will be that today? $9, $80?
$6.
$6. I didn't have that for 6 months. And it was very tough. And then I remember we couldn't eat outside. I gotta learn how to cook the food because little money that we had, we gotta cook, we gotta buy food, we gotta train. Sometimes little injuries. And but I do remember one thing that I kept on my head. I'm not coming back. There's no way I'm gonna come back and say, hey, I quit, I try it. It's not coming back. I gotta make it happen. And one of the toughest days, that was already tough, but I was training. And I know, I believe that it's gonna happen. I'm gonna make it through. I know it's tough, but I'm gonna keep going, I'm gonna make it through. I always like to write my things. I had a plan, I put a picture, I'm gonna be a world champion in jiu-jitsu. I'm gonna keep working. I was always positive, not motivated, but I was positive, and I kept training. One of the worst days, I had bronchitis and it was asthmatic, bronchitis. Sometimes my chest gets super congested, and that was one of the toughest days. I was getting sick. I couldn't train for one day. I still tried to train, but I make it worse. Coach say, hey, don't come to train. Make sure you relax. And I'm gonna call my mom because my mom, she got 3 kids and we all have bronchitis. She know what to do. She know what medicine or she gotta take it. And I had no money. I was broke. And they had a card here on the beginning was the coins to make the call, but then it was a card, right? So I don't know how I got a card. I called my mom, those pay phones, I called my mom, and then I was about to ask, what should I have to take it? What medicine should I take it? If she had the money to give me. But you know how you gonna call your mom a long time and I talk to my mom, hey mom, how you doing? I'm not feeling good, this and that. And as I was explaining to her that I was sick, that I might need money to the medicine, before I ask, she asked me for money. Hey son, yeah, how you doing? Yeah, I'm not good. Yeah, we're not good too. Do you have any money to send me? And then I was calling to ask for money. And it's crazy, I get all goosebumps remembering. Then whenever she asked, I was just like, I was almost crying, but I was holding, like, I'll send it, don't worry, I'll send it. I don't have it right now, but I'm gonna send it. And then I remember that was maybe 1 o'clock. I show up to the 3 p.m. class. I still a little sick, but I train. At night, I still sick, but I train, and then I didn't miss a training. I don't remember. I got better, I don't know how, but I did got better. I did a little security that weekend and sent the money to my mom, but that was another confirmation that I'm gonna make it, like, whatever it takes. And then that was, after a couple months, I started kind of changing my level in the jiu-jitsu, started getting a lot better, started winning more and more tournaments, but a lot of guys, if they ask me, what do you think you made it? What do you think, like, how do you make it, how you went through, because I went through a lot of those little things that you gotta negotiate, you gotta make a decision. I do think what made me go through all that and still kind of become, after a couple of years, I became a Brazilian national champion, became a world champion. Then I decided to do MMA and I went to the UFC. And it was tough. Yeah, very. And like you said, it was tough, yeah. But I wouldn't change a thing because those things kind of make me who I am today. Like all those tough journeys, it make it. But at the end of the day, I think the first thing that helped me when those situations came was because I believed it, because I wanted so much. That was a dream that whenever I was 16 years old and I watched the black belt fighting, and they're just looking and I'm like, I can do this. And that belief, I was going through a lot of those little things that was tough, but I think the belief, I think the first thing with the belief, people take belief for a lot of different ways. But I think when I do believe when I close my eyes, I can see myself. I remember I was watching and I'm like, I can do this. I can win a world champion. And I think because of that belief, it make the negotiations, we're like, man, shit, it's very hard. Should I go back home or should I do this? But because I could see myself becoming a champion, I think it helped make me through those hard times. And then, like I said, if they ask me, you would change anything? I don't think I would change a thing, because those tough journeys, those tough paths make me who I am. It kind of build me to become who I am. So sometimes you gotta go to freaking struggle, make it. A lot of days I wasn't motivated. The training was super hard. It was freaking Tuesday morning. I already had 4 sessions. And Tuesday felt like Friday. Like, shit, it's still Tuesday. I still have a lot of sessions to go through. And then you don't have motivation at that time. You just need to have freaking, I love and I hate that name called discipline. I hate it because, shit, I know I'm gonna make it. I have to go. But on the same time, shit. But you're not motivated, but you still gotta go through it. It's like, a lot of things I don't like to say I need to do. I don't need to do. I want to do it. But if it's with the discipline that I want to become a world champion, and I decided that I'm going to everything on my power and I'm going to commit and I'm going to do it, I don't freaking want to do it sometimes, but I want the results. Because I want the result, I must do it, I have to do it. And then I think that was a couple things that happened in my career that keeping me on track to get to my goals. And a lot of my goals are not accomplished yet. It's still a lot of ways to go.
I started off this conference a few days ago, Thursday, and Thursday afternoon, I said I think the first thing I said here is your most difficult negotiations are going to be with yourself.
Yes.
And if you don't have those thoughts of Hannibal, the famous conqueror Hannibal from Carthage, that goes to Rome and torments the Romans for 13 years, he said, I will find a way or make one. So I will find a way or make one. So meaning, and think of the boldness of that statement, that I'll find a way to accomplish my goals, and if there's no way to do that, I will invent the way to accomplish that goal. And Hannibal marched 100,000 people through the Alps in a bunch of elephants, most of which didn't make it. Rest in peace to the elephants. And it's, and we still talk about it 2,000 years later. And he tormented the Romans and pissed them off so badly and for so long, when they finally, more than a decade later, had some momentum against Carthage, they made sure that they destroyed the civilization entirely. The military went to, you don't know where Carthage is because it doesn't exist anymore. It's in Tunisia, northern Africa. And when they went to Carthage, they had the order to leave no brick on top of another, to destroy everything. So that's the effort that he made to fuck with them. You got to have that thought somewhere in your head. Even if somebody never did it before, you have to find a way or make a new way. And you're going to have moments of self-doubt or numerous moments of frustration. And I think those are the moments later when you hear how I talk, or some of the other guests, or Gilbert talks. Those are the moments that help define your character, or those are the things that give you tremendous confidence later. When you think of times in the past where I didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway, and I earned the result. I had a result in mind, and you were sick, or you were tired, or your mommy wanted something from you, or your girlfriend was a little naggy that day. She wanted your attention. And you say, no, this is what I'm doing. If you do that, I'm going to leave. Okay, I understand. Leave. But this is what I'm doing. And if you want to be distracted by these things, if you allow these nuisances and distractions and parasites in your life, instead of being focused on the goals, then wouldn't it be lovely if your competition was like, wouldn't you love your competition to be distracted? Wouldn't you love when you pay money for them to have to be distracted, their girlfriend's being mean to them and they're distracted? Or they didn't feel like going to the gym, so they didn't, and you did. It's a dream. So if you're going to perform at a high level, you have to do these things. And if Tuesday feels like Fridays, well, we still got 3 days of work. It doesn't matter. We still got 3 days of work and some more on the weekend. How do you think about these? I'm sure your childhood was delightful and easy. What was your overnight success, right?
Yeah, actually, hearing Gilbert, it's kind of like an honor for me, because he grew up in Rio de Janeiro, and listening to this breed of fighting, like Gilbert Meade and all the guys that's been here for the past couple of days, it's gonna be very, very valuable for all of you, because today, fighting MMA, to fight MMA today, to get ready for an MMA fight today, it's way easier than it was when we were starting, right? So guys like Anderson Silva, Vitor Belfort, Gilbert Burns, me, you're not gonna see people fighting with their hearts for the next generations of fighters. because we went through what these people are not going through. They're getting like the easier way, the easier path now. It's still hard. It's still very, very hard. As we level up, it's still very, very hard. But you're talking with the people that made the sport, right? MMA, it's only 30 years old, and we started doing this when people were not doing, like Gilbert said, when he got to Rio de Janeiro trying to become a jiu-jitsu world champion, everybody was transitioning to MMA, and he was like, oh, why are they doing this? They were transitioning to another sport because they were thinking about money, right? So me and Gilbert, we are stories of success of like other 200 fighters that didn't make it. They either got injured, hurt, or didn't have the heart to keep pushing, keep going, and we kind of had the vision and we found the right path to get where we are today, right? So with that note, you can see that Gilbert was obsessed with his dream, with his goal, and that's why he's here. That's why he's a top contender. That's why he fought for the title. That's why he became a world champion. And I'll say the same thing about everybody that sat on those chairs for this past couple days, like 3 days. You guys been here, right?
Day 4.
Like you talking to the pioneers of the sport, right? So me, a little bit about me. My name is Claudia Gadelha. My story begins in Mossoró, Rio Grande do Norte. I know nobody here knows what it is because I'm from the northeast of Brazil, a little small town close to the Amazon area. And I grew up with no opportunities in life. My mom had 5 kids. She worked 12 hours a day to try to feed us, and she used to make, like, I would say, $300 a month to feed 5 kids. My dad, he was a freelancer. He never had a job, and he was, like, always chasing money to try to bring food back home. And I was growing up, I was like, I don't think I want to live the rest of my life like that, I don't think I want my kids to live their life like that as well. So I gotta make something to, change that pattern. So I started, like, in a very young age, thinking about things that I could do to change this pattern in my family. And there was not a lot of opportunities out there. It's a small town, there's not a lot to do, people, there's like a bunch of farms and not a lot to do, My younger brother went to jail in a very, very young age, and everybody that grew up with me, it's either dead or in jail or in a very bad situation in life. So I started seeing people doing capoeira on the streets in my town, and I was like, I think I want to try this because it looks fun, it looks good. So I started trying capoeira for a little bit. And then people told me about jiu-jitsu, and I went to the gym to train jiu-jitsu at 14 years old, and I started seeing, like, people training and being passionate about jiu-jitsu, and I started to like what I was seeing, but I also saw an opportunity there. And there was a guy called Tibau. You remember Tibau? He was like one of the first fighters that came out of Brazil, and he was from a small town close to where I'm from. And I was watching him, and I saw him, like, going out to Rio de Janeiro to fight MMA and coming back with money. So it was like, okay, I see what this guy's doing. He's, like, using this opportunity of, like, using martial arts to make money, So I started training jiu-jitsu and competing in jiu-jitsu, like competing every weekend. Remember those days we would compete every weekend, like 6 to like 12 matches every weekend and growing in jiu-jitsu. And my goal was to make money from jiu-jitsu, but like Gilbert said, there's no money in jiu-jitsu, right? I won 13 state championships, 7 nationals, and 3 world championships in jiu-jitsu, and I had no money. I was broke. So it was like, I don't think I want to do this. It's a good path. Like, I can transit from this to go and do MMA.
But you must have got hundreds of dollars in scholarships.
Oh. Yeah, so I was like, okay, I can use that to go and fight MMA, but like there's no way I can do this here, right? So when I turned 15, I moved to Natal, like 4 hours away from where I'm from, and I lived in the gym. I cleaned the gym for 3 years to be able to train there, and live there, and sleep there. And that was my decision. You know, I told my parents, like, this is what I'm gonna do. Doesn't matter what it takes. I'm leaving. I'm out of here, and I'm gonna do something else with my life. So I left my parents' house, lived in the gym from 15 to 18 years old. And when I was 18 years old, I was like, where do I need to go to grow in fighting? You know, and the best fighters in Brazil were in Rio de Janeiro, where Gilbert was. So I got a backpack and a gi, put it in my bag, and I went to Rio de Janeiro. When I got in Rio de Janeiro, I went to Nova União, where Gilbert also trained, and I met a guy called, his name is André Pederneiras. He's Jose Aldo's coach. And there was like so many good fighters there. And I was like, I need to be at this place because I want to be a good fighter, you know? So when I got there and I told Andre that I wanted to become a fighter, he looked at me, he was like, you crazy? Like, I'm talking about when women
When was that? When was that?
I was 18, so I'm 33 now.
When? Remember what year was that?
I don't remember what year, but probably
Seven,
seven.
yeah. No woman's fighting MMA
Yeah.
like today.
Right.
That's the crazy thing. Like a girl come and want to fight, but back at that time, MMA wasn't that big. I don't think they were on a big TV like Fox, ESPN. None of that wasn't that big, especially for women. So that was a crazy idea.
Yeah, it
Just
was
remember
crazy.
it now.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like when I looked at Andre, he was like coaching a bunch of good fighters, and I looked at him, I was like, I want to be a fighter. He was like, you crazy? There was no women in the UFC. There was no women fighting in Brazil. And he was like, you crazy. I was like, I want to do it. Let me do it. Like, trust me. I'm going to be here every day. I'm going to do the homework. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to do it. He was like, all right, I'll let you train here. So I started training. I was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu blue belt at the time. And 2 months in, I was like getting punched in the face, getting taken down. Sometimes, some days, like people didn't want to train with me because I was a girl. The guys didn't want to train with me because they felt like they were not evolving, so I would just watch practice. But I was there every day. I showed up every day, even though I was the only girl and people didn't want to train with me and it was hard for me to train with guys. I was there every day. And then 2 months in, they offered me a fight. I went there, 17 seconds. I was a blue belt. The girl was a black belt. I submitted her in 17 seconds. And I was like, okay, I feel like this is the way to go. I feel like I'm in the right path, right? But the similar story to Gilbert, because like I feel like every time you talk to a Brazilian that made it in life, you're gonna see some really, really sad stories, because being poor in Brazil, it's way different than being poor in America, right? We're talking about like being crazy poor, like having nothing, right? And are you guys familiar with favellas? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So I spent most of my career living in the favelas in Rio de Janeiro. And I would walk from the gym to my house. And just so you have an idea, I would walk 20 minutes and then go upstairs 20 more minutes because I was in the top of the favela. And I had to kind of like climb a rock to hold a piece of wood to get to the ground, where there was a little small room where I could afford to live. And I used to do that walk every day, go to the gym in the morning and come back at night to be able to train.
That was normal.
That
like
was normal.
Now we're like, shit, that was crazy. But that was normal. Oh, I gotta go to the rock, and the other guy, yeah, me too. Why are you complaining? Like, it was normal thing.
It's normal, right? Some people are in worse situations than that. But like, so you guys have an idea of what we had to go through to be able to step in the UFC octagon, right? Like we go through so many struggles.
To go to a fight.
To be able to fight, and when you get there,
Go to a fight.
you fight, and you don't make as much money as well in the beginning, you know? So it's such of a hard career. Like if you make it to top 5 in the UFC, you are a fucking badass. Like you really did the job, you were obsessed with what you do, and you have a why, right? And I think this was the thing about me, you know, because I competed in the UFC for 9 years, and I recently retired from fighting, like back in December. And I had a short career. Like how long have you been fighting MMA?
11 years.
11 years. So I retired at 32, right? And I feel like my goal and my mission in life is to live the world and MMA and the sport of MMA, a sport better than what I found, right? And fighting was just the mechanism for me to do that. My goal is to live the sport better, to make the world better and the people around me better, right? So through fighting, like every day I went through a hard practice. Every time I went through a hard fight camp, I became better, you know? So I got addicted with that feeling of getting better. And I was like, when I was thinking about retirement, I was like, I don't think there's nothing else in the world that will make me work to be better as the sport of MMA, because it's so hard. It's the hardest sport in the world, in my opinion. So going through all these challenges just to make it, you know, to make it to the UFC. And I was actually the first strawweight to step and win in the UFC octagon. I launched a division in the UFC. I not only made it to the UFC, but I launched a division in the UFC, and I coached the Ultimate Fighter. Like, I had so many great fights, I had so many fight of the nights in the UFC, but I had to go through what I went through, you know? And going back to my why of like doing the things I needed to do to get where I am today, like fighting was the mechanism for me to achieve my goals and to be able to live my why, right? Now that I'm retired, I am helping the younger generation of fighting. I work now in the UFC Performance Institute as the director of athlete development. I was hired in the beginning of the year. The UFC didn't let me go. I wanted to go, but they didn't let me go. And it's so fun because I get to help the next generation of fighters to not make the same mistakes I made, you know, to understand about recovery, to understand about training, not train themselves, to take care of their mind, you know, and stuff like that, which I think it's very important, right, to make sure you kind of prepare for the fight, because most fighters that go to the gym they train so hard, and sometimes they overtrain themselves. And when you see like a top contender, a high-level fighter like Gilbert, they get everything down. They know everything about their sleep. They know everything about the food they eat, the food they put in their body, the supplements they take, how many hours they train a day. They know everything they do. They're obsessed with what they do, and that's why they high-level fighters, they top contenders, right? So that was a little bit of my story. I think now that I work in the UFC and I get to help the fighters, you know, the mechanism for me to be able to make the sport better and make the world better is just to keep helping people and keep helping those fighters to not make the same mistakes as I did. But yeah, that's it. That was my story.
Easy.
Easy? Super easy.
What are let's do some questions early. What are some questions you folks have that Claudia, Gilbert, and I can help with? Yes, sir.
So, well, one thing that seems common, and it reminds me a lot of what you say, Derek, like the struggles coming up. And actually seems like the struggles are necessary. And you said, you know, growing up, you know, the closest people to you are either dead or in jail. Given some of the factors that made you where you are now compared to a lot of your peers at the time?
The 6 people that I was closest to growing up, and that's not an exhaustive list, those are just close friends, but 6 people that I was rather close with growing up. So 3 of them are dead. One of them is doing life in federal prison. He's never coming home. Life means life. It means he'll be dead before he comes home. One did 10 years and then 30 years. And the 6th one was drunk and high and got himself injured at work. His own fault. He's like permanently crippled, working with heavy equipment, and caused his own injury. And he's kind of dumb, but he's just smart enough to know that it's his own damn fault, and that was a really bad idea. And that wasn't enough. Then the money he got, he shouldn't have got a settlement because it's his own damn fault. But so then he gets a settlement money from the employer or their insurance or whatnot. Then he picked up a drug habit and burned all that money on opiates and whatnot. So, there's more, but those are people that I was close with. So, you either have to interpret that, my father was in prison, my uncle was in prison, 15-year sentences. My mother wasn't the best mother. It was not somebody that I could rely on or that was, very nurturing in any way. So you either have to interpret that as, a lot of people, I think, look at that as, everything's bad and it's not my fault. They use it as an excuse to be a loser. They use it as an excuse that, I guess I was just born unlucky and I'm going to stay that way. And, I started thinking to myself around age 10, I thought, a lot of this is shit. And, I prayed to God like, I grew up around, Catholic, Christian type people. So you say the appropriate prayer to the culture that you come from. And I tried that for a minute and that didn't work so good. Nothing really happened. And, you take inventory at some time as well. My father, might be capable of helping, but he's not here. And my mother's certainly going to do nothing. And there's been no divine intervention. So around age 10, I had the idea, what can I do? What can I do to make things a bit better? And what else can I do? And what else can I do? And I've just been thinking like that. I'm 43, and I'm just keep thinking like that of, what else could I do? What else could I do? And but you actually go do that. You can't. It's not. You don't sit around and fantasize about it. When people say, follow your dream, follow your passion, and I really enjoy making fun of that. A dream versus a goal. A dream is something that like a little baby has, like a little child. A little child has a dream, and then he wakes up and realizes that he's pissed himself in the night, has pissed the bed, and then he cries out for his mommy for help. Dreams are overrated. I'd rather lose a little sleep and have a little more productivity towards goals. Goals are not overrated.
Yes.
Goals are not overrated. Accomplishing worthwhile goals are the things that will give you confidence at dark times, make you happy during dark times. You literally could smile in a circumstance that other people would cry or panic. You could literally smile sincerely because you don't think anything of it because you've been in much worse circumstances and you made it work then too. So I had that addiction of setting goals and accomplishing goals, setting goals and accomplishing goals. And we've discussed this, in numerous ways this week, but don't allow people around you that'll poison your goals. Their dreams and fantasies are worth shit. They're worth nothing. It's worth less than nothing. It's a distraction from doing the things that would help you accomplish the goals. So don't get distracted with those things. How do you think of this?
I think, I will go back there with the question. So everybody that's here in the room, you guys want to be victorious, right? Want to be successful. Yes? Yes. Everybody, right? So with that being said, that's a decision to make right there. And I even make a little note right here because if you do want to become a successful, victorious champion, reach whatever it is, the first thing that you gotta know, you're gonna be a lot of fights. It's not gonna be, if it was easy, freaking everybody would be rich, everybody would be a champion, everybody would be the best. It's gonna be a lot of fights. And whenever has a fight, like we do have in the UFC, that's the winners, it has the part they're gonna lose. So I put a couple notes right here. So if you do want to be victorious, that's the words that I use. First thing that you're gonna do, you're gonna be ready. Prepare yourself to fight. It's not gonna be easy. The second thing that I say, you gotta be able to take risks. Like I know that I had a lot of moments on my MMA career I can tell you right now when I flipped my career, because I was cutting a lot of weight to be on the lightweight division. I'm 205, 208 right now. Back then I was 190 and I was cutting weight to fight at 155. And I was that crazy, dumb. But on my training, I was evolving. I was talking to Claudia before. I was trying to make a lot of notes on my training. I tried to see what I'm training, like that same question that I did right now. What else can I do? I always say, how can I get better? But I did change the level on my UFC career when I took the risk. So I decided I'm not gonna cut weight anymore. I'm not performing like I should. I'm not getting near close to the ranks. I'm getting older. I'm gonna move up in division. And my wife told me too, she said, you gotta move up. She was the one like, that diet is like putting you're not fighting the way you're training. And I talked to all my coach, my manager, and we decided to move up. When I told the UFC, next fight, I'm gonna fight a welterweight, 170. In 2 weeks, they give me a call, a test call. I was going to Orlando. I live in Florida, South Florida. I live in Boca. My kids, they both do jiu-jitsu. The little one was competing in Orlando Open. So we were in the car. We stopped by Five Guys. You guys know Five Guys? Yes. So I stopped there. I was getting a burger. And I was eating the burger, actually. And then I got a FaceTime call by my manager. And I got a call and say, hey, UFC just called you. They ask if you want to fight. Look at my first fight, moving up in division. My first fight. Hey, do you want to fight this Russian dude? He's just undefeated, 20-0. They asking if you want to take that fight. And then I was just like, let me take a look on this guy. And I went to look, and the guy looks very slow. And I was eating a burger, and like, I think I'm gonna take this fight. And my wife, yeah, I think you should take it. And then I FaceTime my coach, Henry Hoof. Hey, Henry, yeah, I know this guy. That's a good fight for you, 2 weeks. So that means I didn't train 8 weeks. I didn't make a camp. I was training. So I called him back and said, I'm gonna get the fight. So I finished my burger, went to Orlando. I ran that night just to try to kill that burger. And then my son won the tournament. We went back. I got the fight. They signed a contract. Sunday, I signed the contract. But look how crazy it was. So I got back. I trained that week, the whole week. Monday, they tried to kill me. Monday morning and Monday night, my coach, just to see if I was in shape or not. Tuesday, same thing. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday, I had to travel for the fight. I went to Uruguay. That fight was first UFC Uruguay. I was there, cut away, fought. Tough fight. First round was, let's put on the notes. First round was okay. It was good. Second round, it got very tough, but I won the first and I won the second. I remember going to the third round, I was super tired. I was exhausted because I just got fight in 2 weeks, so I wasn't prepared to the fight. But I remember the guy tried to do a spinning kick. I don't know if you guys know a spinning kick. He tried to do a spinning kick, but was so slow. I remember when I saw the kick passing, I just saw his body. Then I just gave him a body lock. I run to the corner. My coach was there, and I was tired. And then my coach, just put your ear on his back. And I just did, and then I took him down, and then I was laughing for my coach, like, thank you. And then we fought, boom. So, and I won that fight. This is another thing, you gotta have courage. You gotta dominate that fear. You gotta dominate that fear, because sometimes it's a good business, it's a good decision, but you hold on to that money, you hold on to that, you gotta take those risks, you gotta have courage. And another thing, it's coming back to the number 7 here, the 7th point that I'm going is, you gotta suffer. That you saw how much she said that she gotta climb to go home, that she gotta go to a practice, bunch of guys and they don't wanna train with you. It's tough. You're gonna suffer. You're gonna have emotional things, gonna be physical things, you're gonna get tired, you're gonna get problems. Sometimes it's real problems. I don't know, your son getting sick, whatever, your wife. Sometimes it's real problems you still gotta go through. You know, it's freaking a bomb at home, but you still gotta go there, work, do whatever you have to do, go back to that problem. And the number 8, we're gonna have defeats. We're going to have defeats. We're gonna make stupid decisions sometimes, we're gonna make mistakes. But like I said, I wouldn't change a thing on my whole life because all those mistakes, all those bad decisions, it make me learn and be better. Oh shit. And every time that I lose a fight or I make a bad decision or make this, I try to go back. Why did I make that decision? And I understand deeply why did I make it, and I learn from it, and I don't want to do it again. But at least I made a shit. There's nothing I can do. And then I go back, and I try to don't do it again. But I don't know any champion, maybe one or another, but they lost in other way. Very hard to see a guy that was undefeated, that the guy that never lost. May have won, but lost in the other ways of life, but very hard. So every guy that got to a different level that became a champion, they have losses too. And the losses make those guys better. So those are a couple points that I kind of got it to you. Just trying the struggles, the preparation of fighting, trying to put that on a business perspective, that I do believe is a lot of things are related, right? A lot of things are kind of like, shit, it's not gonna be easy. You're gonna make decisions, you gotta take a risk, you're gonna put time, you're gonna put energy, you gotta say no, you gotta have the determination, you gotta have the courage, you're gonna suffer, you're gonna have defeats. But if you really, really have that firm goal, those things cannot stop you.
Regarding tying that into business, and I'd love to hear your perspective of this as well, but tying that into business, or your comments about the stock market, like, some people in the room know me for 8 years, 10 years. Some people more recently, but I had to work and work and work. I found up money when I had a good amount of money for a teenager, large amount for my age. I found a way to turn that into zero. In my early 20s, I had another, large amount, couple $100,000 in my early 20s. I found a way to turn that into zero. And then I got tired of doing that.
Shit.
I remember, I tell this story occasionally, that I remember I think like 26 years old, and I had like a negative net worth because I had debt from school, debt from real estate things, or various things. And I remember walking in Chicago. It was winter, it was cold. I remember it being cold, and I walked by the Neiman Marcus store on Michigan Avenue, and there's, the sidewalk is wide, but there's this bum, this homeless guy is taking up a lot of space on the sidewalk, and you have to walk around the bum, and I was very annoyed by that, and he's looking for change, and I took a couple of steps past, and I stopped, not to interact with him, but I just stopped because it clicked in my head. So that bum is probably $250,000 richer than I am right now, that no one would give this person a loan. His net worth is higher than mine, yeah, if you look at the assets and liabilities. But I never had a personal bankruptcy. I never had a business bankruptcy, none, zero. And I fixed that, and less than 3 years later, I had my first $1 million, real $1 million net worth. And a few years after that, then you had the 2008, 2009, great financial crisis, which was the great financial opportunity for anybody paying attention at the time. And I turned that into a few $1 million, and then that was another slow trickle for years that, through my 30s, that had $10, $11 million when things went to shit in 2020. And I quit my last job at 19. The last thing I ever wanted is a job. I'm not gonna have a job. I'd rather die than go to, I'm not going to work. I don't want a job. When I went to college, my first college degree, my second college degree, my third college degree, none of those to get a job. I wanted the education. I wanted to learn pragmatically useful information about business that would help me make more money. And everything I was doing for 9 years at university was thinking about, well, how does this apply, pragmatically in real life? I wasn't just, I'm not a true intellectual that, speaks multiple languages and plays a dick flute or something, and whatever other artistic things the people from softer families had the opportunity to do. So, I just wanted to think, well, what are the things that if I knew these things, it would help me get results in real life? And I just focused on that. What are the things that are going to be pragmatically useful? How do we get results? And when in 2020, they closed the gyms. Early 2020, I was in Vegas in a conference room. And March 2020 is 2.5 years ago. Some of you were there with me. Who was there with me? Some of you were there with me. So 2.5 years ago in March, we were in Vegas in a conference room. And, the stock market was starting having serious problems. That was happening late January, all through February. By mid-March, it was serious.
March 14, they closed.
And I was shorting the market. I'm looking at that, and while I have a group of people like this, and in the background, I'm shorting consumer discretionary, and then I started shorting the S&P. I was using these triple leveraged ETFs. That means, I would explain it simply, if the market goes down $1, I make $3. If it goes down, I make money. If it goes up, I lose money. But if it goes down 1 unit, I make 3. If it goes up 1 unit, I lose 3. So you're betting aggressively that things are going to get worse. And there's days I'm making a couple $100,000 a day, $1 million a day, and that kept spiraling. And so just accept those things regarding the whole list that he said, and I'm sure she has some other warm words about this, but you're going to look embarrassed, you're going to feel stupid, you're going to be exhausted, you're going to have moments of self-doubt, and even after you had a lot of success, you're still going to have moments of self-doubt when you have a setback. But the key to that is those shitty moments from earlier where you had something that would have been a disaster for somebody else, and you're like, yeah, but I had that circumstance and I fixed it. And I had this other circumstance and I fixed that. And these couple things went wrong for my friend and I helped them fix it too. And the other thing, and the other 20 times earlier in life that you felt really weather beaten and down, and you fixed it and you fixed it and you fixed it. During those moments, solving those earlier problems when somebody else would have quit, overcoming those earlier problems when somebody else would have quit, are exactly the things that'll prepare you that you have the diligence or the endurance to solve a future problem that's even more complicated and even more difficult. And the more successful you become, the more people are going to be able to relate to that. So your new problems are going to be more difficult and less people will be able to help you solve that. We were just talking about that, and when we had a break for a moment regarding training, both of them are high-level black belts. The number of people in the world that can teach you something new about jiu-jitsu, as you've learned more and more, it's harder to learn something new. There's less people can solve you that can help you solve the next thing. So and if you don't do that, if everything goes great, you can feel miserable, you can feel exhausted, you can be embarrassed, your family won't understand, the public won't understand, but you'll be quite pleased with yourself later that you did some shit. That's if everything goes great. Or you could just choose to be a nobody and do nothing. But I don't think you'll be very happy with that, or you wouldn't be here. Do you have some warm words to share? How? Could you just tell them the short? Now that Gilbert and I have told them life's going to be hard, could you just share the shortcuts, how easy it can be?
Is this the last day?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you brought 2 broke Brazilians from the favelas to close up. Okay. For me, I think you guys said it best, but talking about fear a little bit, right? Like Gilbert was talking about fear, and he was describing him walking into the octagon and being afraid of being there. I started thinking about me and every other fighter that walks to that octagon, right? Like fighting is not comfortable. You're getting punched in the head, kicked in the head, and every fighter that says, "Oh, I love this, I do this," well, we do love the sport and everything, but nobody loves getting punched and kicked in the face, right? But this is what we have to do in order to grow in life. This is our mechanism to growth, right? And I'm pretty sure Gilbert, after fighting, will be a very successful guy because he went through everything he needed to go through in order to be successful in life. You know, and it's the same thing with me. When I was thinking about retiring, I was like, I love this. I still want to fight, but it's just not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And it's a matter of when, not if, right? Every fighter will retire. And my decision like came from a lot of thinking, right? I was thinking for like 2 years. I was like, I don't like being there anymore, but there's nothing else I can find that will make me grow as fighting does. So I don't know if I want to do it, but I'll do it because this is the mechanism that will make me grow, right? So I kept doing it, and I kept going to fights and winning and losing. You know, and one point of my career was 11-0, nobody beat me, and I was like, I feel like to fight MMA, to step in that octagon, you have to think about being the champion, like trying to be the best of your ability. You can't step in that octagon without training every day and eating every day and doing everything you can every day to be the best. If you're just training to be there, you're not gonna get anywhere because we're talking about the details of being the best in the world, you know, and that requires a lot, you know. So fear is a very serious thing, you know, that we have to face for the rest of our life, you know, until we are in that deathbed, you know. We're gonna be fearing life because life it's like that. You have to go through a lot of hard stuff to be able to grow, you know. And I always say that, you know, the fear of failure kills more dreams than failure itself, right? Just not doing it because you were afraid, it's gonna kill your dreams, you know. So when we step into that octagon to go out there and fight, we're afraid, but we have to face our fears, you know. And that's what I had to do my entire life. You know, I had to learn about myself, learn about dedication, learn about what makes me who I am in order to go out there and face my fears and fight, you know. And now that I don't fight anymore, I still can use the skills I learned from fighting to negotiations, to the business, to invest in real estate. I invest in real estate now. I own 7 properties. I was even, when I was talking to Derek for the first time, he was like, out of every fighter I met, this little girl is the one doing it, you know, because I really love investments, and I had to study a lot, take his courses to make sure I was doing the right things, you know, because in the beginning it was like I started investing my fighting money because I wanted to have a good life and give my family a good life, you know. And like I said in the beginning, you know, my family is very poor. They're still out there in Brazil, but I am the little girl that decided to change the pattern of my family, you know, to today be able to give my family the life they never thought they would be able to have, you know. And actually the first good money I made in fighting, I bought my mama a house, you know, and a couple of years later, she wanted to move to another city. I bought her another house, you know, and today she don't have to spend a penny, you know, because the little girl made it happen, right? So I had to go through a lot to make this happen and to give myself a good life. But the little girl that decided to change the pattern of the family 18 years ago made it happen through hard work. I had to get punched in the face and kicked in the head and taken down. I had to lose. I had to live in the favelas. I had to go through so many things to make this happen. But I'm pretty sure my family from now on will have a better life. My sisters are starting to think of life in a different way, moving to another country, trying to grow. My nieces have a bright view of the future, you know, and the little girl made it happen, you know. So anything you do in life, it's gonna be hard, you know, but all the struggles you go through, it's worth it.
Some people are confused. They say, Derek, what is the 10 Commandments of Wealth? Not the 10 maybes of wealth. It's the 10 core things that you're going to need to know about in detail if you'd like to accumulate significant wealth in your lifetime. Click this link up here to find more information exactly what is the 10 Commandments of Wealth, how is the program structured, what's inside of it, how are you going to benefit from it. If you're doing well already and you'd like to do better, click that link and find out more. There's over 100 hours of content in this program. I've interviewed dozens of world champions that shared what it took for them to win, to be the top Hall of Fame athletes in their respective areas. And I brought a lot of other superstars in there from business, from legal, people that are real world entrepreneurs that made serious money, as I have myself. We all share with you what are the foundations you're going to need to know if you want to be successful yourself. Be a chooser, not a loser. Click that link, find out more. I'll see you inside.